that. Cool. Hello, folks. Welcome to another OpenOrg event and session. Super awesome to have all of you here. Bear with me while I keep letting people into the room. If OpenOrg's new to you, come and check us out. We combine content creation, consulting, community building to help make startup HR folks' lives way easier when it comes to learning and execution. We've got a heap of incredible free open source resources you can access. So if we are new to you, if you haven't seen us yet, come and check us out. Hopefully you'll find it incredibly useful. Today we are contributing to that learning by unpacking topical conversation that a lot of folks are having at the moment, and it's all around how is AI shaping both people experience and org design of the future. We are seeing a lot of really awesome case studies out there right now of companies building from the ground up around AI, and that is one of the reasons I'm super excited to be joined by two people from two of my favorite companies out there. We've got Shirley from Dreamteam. If you haven't seen Dreamteam or come across Dreamteam yet, go and check them out. It's incredible. I will share more about that later on, I'm sure, as the conversation goes on, as I'm sure will Shirley. And we've got Jess from Instant Impact as well. Again, if that's a new name to you, go check them out. They are doing some incredible work, both as an established name in the talent space, but also around AI transformation for a lot of companies now as well. And very, very lucky to have both of you here. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to let you both do some intros first, because I will probably do a terrible job otherwise. So I'm going to let you both intro yourself first before we dive in. Shirley, are you happy to go first? Oh, one sec, Shirley, I think you're muted somehow. Jess, could you go first while Shirley's...
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Great. So hello, everybody. I can see there's lots of people from different parts of the world on the webinar. So this is great. My name is Jess, and I am Chief Transformation Officer at Instant Impact. So what do? I guess I lead all things technology, process, people, and AI here. What do? We are a workforce of the future organization, so we support our clients in all things tech and AI transformation. Shirley, over to you if you are.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
We're back.
Okay. So I was connected with my phone somehow. Okay, problem solved. Hey everyone, so I'm Shirley. I'm a co-founder and CPO at Dreamteam. We call ourselves AI native people operating system. So kind of HRIS for a new era, everything from hire to retire, but in a different AI native approach. Prior to Monday, I was from the founding team of Monday.com, work operating system. I joined as the first product manager from, we were 30 people back then, so it was quite a small startup. When I left 8 years later, it was 200 people around the world, 1 billion in revenue. So a massive part of my journey, and really inspired what we're doing today at Dreamteam.
Awesome. Thank you both. I just would like to share a little bit about why you're both here as well, and why I was keen to have you in the room, because you probably won't shout about this from as much. But Shirley, some of you, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you probably have seen me talking about Dreamteam a little bit. I have fallen in love with the product over the last few months. I have been looking for a better HRIS for a long time, one that's not rigid and really hard to use. And when I saw the sort of customizable nature of Monday.com, sort of almost fed into an HRIS, and how easy it is to do this, but with AI wrapped around, the product's really, really awesome. And the main reason you're here, Shirley, as well, is also you are building a company right now as a co-founder from the ground up, in a leaner way, wrapped around AI. I can't wait to hear more about what you're doing and how you're doing it. So thank you for joining. Jess, I love Instant Impact, and I was very lucky to come to one of your breakfast events of the week, where you very kindly walked us through like the transformation journey that you've been on as your own business around like candidate experience and hiring, and what you've done and how you've done it and why. So your experience and your thoughts, not just in terms of what you've done internally, but what you're seeing out there, I think would be really awesome for this conversation. So thank you both for being here. Let's dive in, and maybe sort of like touch on that first point as well. I'd love to put your own companies to one side for the moment, maybe, and just think a little bit about like, or hear a little bit from you both around like what you're seeing out there around this sort of topic of how AI is shaping other companies, people experience, and org design. One of you, I won't pick on one of you to start, but feel free to jump in. What are you seeing out there at the moment?
Shall I go first, Shirley?
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, this is a really interesting question. Look, what we're seeing, I guess, out in the market, and I'm personally seeing, is mid-sized companies, which I guess where we operate in, are sort of increasingly recognizing and I guess moving away from the traditional rigid hierarchical structures of old, where you've got deep functional expertise that potentially, could be siloed, to much more of a flatter and agile structure. Now, the reason for that, I guess, is that team members are becoming more multi-skilled. They're leveraging technology, and we're getting a bit of a blur between, the skill sets and the remit, I guess, of individual team members. So that's one I think that's really interesting in terms of people experience, people development, organizational structures side of things. Then I think there's the other thing which is particularly relevant and interesting for me, which is organizations thinking about the way they do change management. We know that AI is really one big digital transformation program, and so organizations are moving away from the here's my one and done transformation that will do me for the next 10 years. And I think it's starting to realize through using AI and experimenting with AI that actually change is continuous, and it's a continuous improvement mindset. And so therefore, a lot of the organizations we speak to who are getting this right are much more, sorry, I can hear a beeping around there, who are much more agile and just seeing that kind of like cyclical approach to change. And experimentation, test and learn. I go to lots of events now where people start talking about embracing failure, see what works for your organization and what doesn't work. And I think that is so different from 5 years ago, right? About how people were doing change management. It used to be such a structured approach. You tick off each stage, you get to the end and you're done. That's just not the case anymore, particularly with AI. So I think those are my two main sort of observations. Shirley, I don't know about you.
Connecting to what you said, Jess, I couldn't agree more. I also, what I'm seeing from our customers is kind of a massive divide between companies that were built before kind of the AI, big bang, and those that were built after. So the goal of everyone is the same. So like you said, be lean, agile, focus talent on impact, not on let AI focus on administration, make better decisions with data, even in places where data didn't exist before. But the way to get there is radically different. So for large tech companies, they kind of have to re-engineer their entire org structure to get there. And for a while now, honestly, it felt like, hair's on fire, kind of. So mass layoffs and these huge reorgs and programs and tech implementations that don't necessarily work. And for I call it like AI native startups that are native to the AI era, like the products kind of are native in their tech stack. So also org design is native to this era. They kind of do it from their core. So smaller teams, less hierarchy, AI automates whatever possible. Tech stack is always like AI forward, so everything is in place. So the entire org is from day one kind of engineered towards maximum efficiency, maximum focus on impact. And I think what's interesting for me is that we are always talking about the first mover advantage, and today at least in this aspect of org design, I think it's kind of the other way around, like the last mover advantage, because these large tech companies kind of try to reverse what they built for years for a different kind of era, and I find it fascinating.
Yeah, that's like I don't know the specifics around the story, but it makes me think of I think it was Klarna, who actually a few years ago made the call to replace a lot of their customer service team with AI, and this is actually a while back, I think. And I think so they've gone through that massive change, and I think they've also then recently actually reversed that a little bit again, because they've realized that they've gone too far.
Yeah, they rehired I think 700 people or something like that.
There's this mass, which is like, it's going to happen, but there's this mass like uncertainty there, which I think is a lot harder to handle when you are a larger organization and you're not sort of building from the ground up around this. And what we're seeing day to day is like a lot more uncertainty, but not necessarily bad uncertainty, but we're just sort of seeing companies plan for that in different ways. So maybe shorter planning cycles, like whereas companies maybe were starting to talk about what does the next 3, 4, 5 years look like. Actually, let's just focus on what the next year looks like.
That's not possible anymore.
Like, let's like what do we think is going to happen in the next year, and what do we need to make that happen? And in a year's time, we're probably talking about some very, very different stuff. But if we can keep our team as lean as possible and as simple as possible, not just thinking about headcount, but the way that we work together and the tooling that we use, etc., we're going to be in the best place possible to make that shift, which I think is like a really big pattern that we're seeing when we're having conversations, which again impacts so many other things we're going to dive into in a minute, which will be interesting. But I'd love to know, and Jess, I'll come to you in a minute as well, because I got to sit and see a little bit about the transformation you've gone through as well. But Shirley, maybe if you're happy to kick off, I'd love to know a little bit about how this is driving how you shape your own business as a co-founder, like the org design, the structure, the decisions you're making. Can you share anything around that, about how that's sort of informing your founder decisions that you're making?
Yes, of course. So first of all, I left, I have to say, like, I left a really big organization, 2,000 people globally. And I don't have this classic story of I left a corporate, with bloated teams and slow execution, and now I do everything the opposite. I think that what's unique about the Monday.com culture is that it really embodies the values we now try to have with the AI revolution. So a lot around like pre-AI, we talked about extreme ownership, focus on impact, lean execution, no hierarchies, maximum freedom, maximum accountability. And what's exciting for me now is that AI really enables that. So it really helps me to do that. And I thought to share like a small anecdote from my early days at Monday.com, when my first task at Monday, and the founders told me that I need to, like, my goal was to decrease customer acquisition cost at a new marketing channel in 20%. And that felt very different from other tasks, I was given or gave to my employees. It wasn't, design this feature. It was very much abstract and very much goal oriented. And after like the initial panic mode, I started thinking, okay, what can I do? What is my ability as a non-marketeer person? I don't know how to optimize landing page. I don't know how to optimize funnels. I have no idea. So what I did was to use my own tool. I interviewed dozens of users to understand their motivations, to understand their underlying needs. And that was the way I approached it. And that was the way that eventually we were able to decrease customer acquisition cost by 20%. And I think it's an amazing story because you can solve this challenge in 1,000 different ways. I did it in my own style, and it was much more satisfying. And I think that this kind of, it's just a very small like story, but I feel that this kind of culture really shapes what we are building now at Dreamteam. So show me where to go, not how to get there. Set the context, the focus, the goals, and not tell everyone or micromanage everyone how to exactly get there. And AI enables that. AI enables people to think outside of their small box, outside of their small world. I can share that, in Dreamteam, for example, product managers, they do prototypes in vibe coding and they can already test out ideas. Beforehand, you needed to ask designers to do that. Designers use Cursor in order to have small UI fixes that were never prioritized before. It was like the bottom of the list. So things are much more fluid right now, and it really allows people to be the full owner of the goal, the things that they are owning and launching, and not just their small kind of tasks. And that's really inspired the way we are building Dreamteam today.
I love that. And quick sort of you tapped into something there. I'd love to just get your thoughts on them, and maybe going back to previous topic as well. So, and Jess, I'm sure you probably have some views on this as well, so I'll come to you too. But I hear a lot of stories about AI transformation projects failing as well, or stuttering, and people struggling. So Shirley, you've pointed out a couple of things there that you've seen work really well in your business. Like, what are you seeing from other companies or experiences about like why this stuff's failing, and maybe what people could think about to try and mitigate that?
So what I'm seeing both from Dreamteam and both from our customers is that when this AI, transformation happen with a mix of top down and bottom up, they work the best. And like the best examples they have is where leadership just, first of all, share that that's top priority for them, and they expect it from the employees. And so that's one, like create the focus and create the alignment. And two, create also the resources, the time and the money, because a lot of times leadership expect it to happen on top of. Okay, you have everything that I already expect you to do, and also please change exactly like fundamentally the way you work, and that doesn't work. So if they understand that if something goes in, something else needs to go out, and create kind of the understanding and the room for that, that's great. And like the example I gave before, when you share like the goal and the expectations, and you give complete freedom to the people to actually execute, the results are amazing. And I have two examples. One is actually from Monday.com. So in Monday.com, we understood that we don't make enough progress because we expect people to do it on top of everything else they need to do. And it's anyway really challenging. So what happened was a AI month. Okay, and it was in the engineering organization. So 700 people stopping everything for a month, which is extremely radical in an environment, with demanding customers and everything. Stopping everything for 1 month and giving room for employees to experiment, to bring new ideas, and to really bake AI in the core of the work and not just as a nice add-on. And the results were crazy. Dozens of initiatives that really transformed the way people worked. So that's a really good example. Give the room and put your money where your mouth is, right? Like 1 month, no one's working. You're working on that. So that's one. And another really other cool thing, which is less radical, but I think really efficient as well, is that I saw from one of our customers that they have this AI ambassadors. Okay, so they don't say, okay, now everyone need to work, all the developers need to work with Cursor, or I don't know. For each team, they chose the one who is most passionate about it or forward thinking or whatever, and they start to implement the tools, and they had the room to trial and error, and also have this case study, like a successful case study. And when you have it with one person and then with one team, the adoption spreads bottom up and not top down, and that makes it really changes everything.
It's like did a breakfast webinar, a breakfast event yesterday with Instant Impact, and we did some like stat ranking of like challenges around AI, funnily enough, and the top one on our table at least, but I think across the room, was finding time to actually experiment with AI. Like time is our biggest enemy, I think, here for a lot of people. And so the AI month is such an awesome way to like really intentionally say, we are going to give you time to do this, because the reality of most companies, I think, is like, you still need to do your job, but we also need you to like completely transform how you learn and think and work, and that's really hard for all teams to juggle.
The
But
change is fundamental.
yeah,
It takes time, and it takes experimentation. It can't be successful, on the first go.
I think the other thing here, that those examples are amazing. I think there are lots of organizations, I guess, that are the ones we deal with, and that aren't necessarily highly technical proficient, everybody. So I think not necessarily people who are comfortable, even if they're given half a day, where do I start? Like, what would I even think about addressing with AI? How do I know what AI can do for me? Where would I go? And I think listening to Shirley talk, I think there's lots of things I agree with. And I think there's a few things that we think about, certainly when we talk about AI transformation. One is, do the leadership team really know what they want to do with AI as a strategy? Like, do we know really what is our position on AI? Like, where do we use it? Where are our kind of parameters? And what are we trying to achieve with it? Is it time saving? Is it enabling people? Is it changing our product? Whatever it is, because then that really trickles down to how you want people to use it. But then there's the whole piece around training and education. Can you do AI? How would I just experiment with it if I was given half a day a week to look at this? And because I think the biggest thing I've seen is actually confidence. You can block out half an hour in people's diaries and say, this is your experimental half an hour, but people don't really know where to start. You will find quite quickly it's going to be incredibly tactical and actually not particularly game changing. So I think there's a couple of things there as well around like setting the strategy so that the organization know like what parameters you're operating in, but also enabling people who maybe haven't ever looked at really, how do I build something? How do I engineer something myself?
Yeah.
I couldn't. Sorry, Adam.
No, Shirley, you go for it.
I couldn't agree more. It's like when you build a product, you need to say what's my goal and what's the problem I'm trying to solve. And the problem is not AI. It's not the problem is maybe to scale with less people, or to save time on mundane tasks, or to gain better visibility on data. And that's I also find fundamental when the kind of implementation is successful and when it's not.
Exactly, and you come across it time and time again where people have maybe just have maybe seen a tool that looks really, really cool, but they don't really know why it's going to solve their problem. And you talked about this sort of success rate of projects, Adam. There's like quite a well-known statistic going around, I think, this year, which is from a Gartner report that said 75% of organizations are going to dabble in AI this year. 80% of those projects will fail because there's no real strategy aligned to it, maybe not the right people, they're trying to do it side of desk, as you say, Shirley, or it's not solving the actual problem that they've got. So there's a whole piece around how you then architect what you're actually trying to achieve with AI. And then you've got to start with that, to Shirley's point, you've got to start with the context.
And how, Jess, I fully appreciate when I sat in a breakfast session with you a few weeks ago, you had like half an hour and some slides to talk information that Instant Impact. Is there a way you can summarize that without slides in a few minutes? Is probably a challenge, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about the journey that you've been on. Sure.
So I mean, I think what we've done really is have a look at is technology, and AI is part of that. How is technology enabling what we're trying to do for our clients and internally? So we very much started with the context of how can we make the experience for our clients and customers better, our people better, and then obviously the candidates, because we are doing recruitment and other kind of talent services for our customers. And that was a really good starting point, because you were identifying where the challenge was for those user groups, which means in theory, of course, everything you build will have that in mind and keep the focus. We then kind of looked at really where is the low value activity across our processes, of which of course there are many, and that's where we started. very kind of easy to, I guess, message that across the organization as well, to say, we want to support you. You've identified these areas. We've workshopped out with you. Here are some tooling that we want to experiment with. The key bit for me was then we didn't say, right, we're going live with this everywhere and you must get on board. We started with small experiments. We tried some tools, we took some risks, we learned, we failed, and then we scaled the bits that worked for us. That built trust in the organization, that actually we would receive feedback. We wouldn't just sort of, what's the word, like enforce a tool from top down. Secondly, we took quite a product thinking approach. So we didn't buy a one size fits all solution. We centered everything that we built or bought around our core source of truth, which for us was an ATS, applicant tracking system, because obviously that's what we use across a lot of our clients. And what that has meant we could do is that we could be really flexible for our clients. So one of our kind of contexts, I guess, was clients don't want the same thing. No one size fits all. So don't build something that basically every client has to have the same solution. So that was at the core of what we built as well, flexibility. And I think that's really important when you think about AI. It's not going to work in every single scenario. It's not going to be a blanket approach across your organization. And that's okay. Embrace that. You can have lots of different types of AI, but if they enable the kind of productivity that you want, then great. And then ultimately, when we saw things succeed across clients, that's when we did scale, because we had the use case, we had built the trust with our clients. There was obviously a degree of sort of compliance stuff that we needed to do as well, so we got certified with that. But yeah, I think the key message in all of that was really build it around the client and the team need, test it, and then scale it.
Yeah, it's hard to share it again because you had some visuals of the week, but hearing about the tools you've actually woven into that and how they work nicely together and feed, like you've taken a lot of like very intentional work to get this right and test it and involve the team, which is cool. And your point about flexibility is like actually really well aligned, I think, with Dreamteam. I believe, Shirley, one of your taglines, if not the tagline, is like every company is different or something like that. So like there's this is being fed into, again, how can we create the most flexible, like customizable, personalizable like products to adapt to what's coming, which I think is a really, really nice alignment there. How's this impacting like people experience and like how we design for that? Jess, you've got a couple of ideas on that, and maybe I don't know if that's what you've seen in instant impact that's seen from a customer standpoint, but yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you're seeing that impact as well.
Yeah, so a couple of places. I think we talked a little bit earlier around like tech and AI literacy. Typically recruitment is a very relationship-based sector, right? There's the old joke about everyone having their black books and with their contacts in and keeping in touch with them and nurturing, and that's really important. It's a people-based kind of service. So there's a lot of importance, I think, on making sure you bring people on the journey, see the value, see where they can add greater value later down the line, potentially in a candidate journey, to continue with the nurture, build the rapport with the hiring manager, so you don't feel like you're taking away from someone's role and actually you're enhancing it. There's a lot around like fear and psychological safety and all that when you're talking about AI, and you've got to be really careful about that and getting it right, because you want to bring your high performers along with you, right? You don't want to put them off for this quest to be able to say you've used AI kind of thing. So for me, that's a really big one, particularly internally in our organization, getting the literacy, the excitement around it, so that people do just start experimenting. And my favorite thing is when someone comes to me and is like, oh, I built this prompt, or I built whatever. It's really cool. It does this. Can I show you? Because I haven't been part of it, but it's because someone's been excited and they've tried it and they want to scale it. So I think that's really one thing. And then another one is working together. So I think I talked at the beginning about how now there seems to be more of a blur between functions and teams. We've rolled out, quarterly hackathons in our organization where we get together, we pick a problem and we try and solve it on that day. And we build some sort of MVP or the skeletons of an MVP. And that's really exciting because you see the pace. People see the pace in, wow, we can really unlock a challenge and do something about it today in this session. And no one's going anywhere until we've got something, sort of something down or created. That's that I've seen the impact on the people experience side of things in our organization with that. And then we talk about it with our clients, and they're really interested in it. So those are two for me, I think, ways of working and sort of the tech literacy piece.
Love that. What about you, Shirley? Any builds on that, or any other areas you've seen this impact?
I think that I'll start with a more business perspective, where this AI new era, actually, we're living through a completely new set of expectations. So, a few years ago, it was growth at all costs, and then recession hit, and then it was efficiency at all costs. And today it's both. So grow as much as you can, but be lean and efficient as much as you can. And we see companies like Lovable and like Cursor, and they're the proof. Like, you hit $100 million ARR, $500 million ARR is less than 150 people, and that's unheard of. And of course, it's the outliers, but it kind of reflects on everyone. So when this is the environment of the business, of course, the expectations from people is also radically different. And today, investors and founders expect to build a completely different type of companies. And I can share an example from Dreamteam. Last year, we scaled 4 times. The year in 2026, again, that's where we are planning. And we don't want to scale in the same ratio in headcount. So one example is customer service, okay, CS. We asked our CS to really analyze where they're not, where they think we have opportunities or where they're not efficient enough. And they came with several opportunity. One was answering tickets. So they implemented intercom. Intercom agent now answers 90% of our tickets, and with great feedback and satisfaction rate. The other thing was even cooler, I think, and it was their own initiative. They took HubSpot data, so data about the customers and calendar data, and kind of cross-referenced that. And what they understood is that they spent another time, the same time, implementing small accounts of, 20, 30 employees, and huge, not huge, but big accounts of 100 employees, and that doesn't make any sense altogether. The complexity is different, the expectation is different, the business value is different. And once they identify this opportunity, we could act upon it. So we improve the product. Actually, now all the implementation in Dreamteam happens with a prompt. So you can build your employee scheme with prompt, and you can create workflows, onboardings, and performance reviews, and surveys, and time away policies, everything was prompt. And that fundamentally reduced implementation time from our customer success. And it also reduced implementation time for our customers, because our CS representative are not a barrier anymore. And it had massive, massive impact. And I think it's a great example of what happens when you think differently about a solution, when you empower people to think, outside of their normal grid, and also how different departments work hand in hand. So one opportunity identified in customer success fundamentally impact the product and experience, and vice versa. And I really connect to what you said, Jess, that this new approach really fundamentally changes everything in the employee life cycle, from hiring, because you don't hire necessarily for knowledge anymore. Knowledge is being commoditized. You can ask pretty much everything. You can ask ChatGPT and they'll get the answer. And knowledge is changing so rapidly. So, I went on maternity leave from the end of 23, mid 24. My profession changed, really. It was insane. And so everything changes so rapidly. And then I think that focus should be on how to solve problems, how to stay curious, how to learn, how to learn yourself, to unlearn things, how to collaborate, how, like, completely different fundamental skills. And so everything needs to change. And I can share another example from our engineering recruitment process. One of our candidates asked if they can use Cursor and ChatGPT in our assignment, in our code exercise. And our first response was no, of course not. Like, it will give you the answers. But then we think it through and we understood, of course, yes, that's the new reality, but we need to change the question. Okay, and we need to change the process.
Yeah.
So we did that, and that really shows, the shift. It's not about how to write the best code. It's about how to be a problem solver, and and it trickles down to everything, and how you manage and how you promote your people and develop them. And
I love that example. Again, there's a constant debate about, like, should we let candidates use AI in interviews? And slowly but surely companies are shifting to this idea of, like, actually we use it day to day in our business, so candidates should use it as well. It's not about trying to cheat your way in. You're assessing other stuff, and I think
the other way around, if you don't know how to use it, that's a problem.
Yeah, the engineer of the future probably will be using Cursor and other stuff. Like, the idea of the current engineer is probably, I'm guessing, like, probably already an outdated one in some respects versus what we might be seeing in 5 years' time. Who knows? So what we're seeing, which I think is really interesting from a shaping sort of people experience point of view, is we're having more and more conversations with people teams about how do we think about progression and career development frameworks and managers here in this business, because we're suddenly a very flat team. We don't have a traditional career ladder we can offer because we're going to run out of room. And how do we think about levels? And we spend a lot of our time trying to help people teams unlearn. At the moment, I think a lot of people teams are having to unlearn a lot of stuff, like a lot of things that we previously have, like, relied upon for structure and frameworks, and having to completely think about this in a very, very different way now. So how do we motivate and progress people when we don't have these traditional structures around us to lean on? And I think that's a really interesting problem to solve, that we're actively trying to help a few people on at the moment, which is good fun.
Yeah, and I think there's also something in, and Shirley, you touched on it, I think we're moving towards a world where there's a lot more expectation on the individual to take accountability for their development, becoming more AI enabled. There's, as organizations, it's definitely our duty, and we want to support people on that journey. But I think, the people who are going to move the fastest in this are going to take a lot of the accountability themselves to drive their competency and drive their learning on this. Now that all the tooling is out there for you to do it yourself. And so I think that's a shift as well. As individuals, we all need to be aware of.
I agree. Just to build on that, again, there's this, like, real challenge there with, like, time. A lot of people sort of will argue, actually, I'm so busy, I can't do this in my working day. But I think there's also this argument of you have to take it upon yourself to go and learn the stuff and be interested and curious enough. The barrier to entry's, like, dropped massively. I think that people are able to go out and build products now. They might not be quite the same as building, like, a fully fledged, like, multi-million-dollar SaaS company, but already people can go out and become a software engineer and build something with the help of a Cursor. That it's becoming so much easier to go and learn these skills, and it's becoming more democratized. Can't say it. So, like, I think it's up to people to go out and spend some time being curious with that and push their own development. And that's exciting. Like, I think that's really, really cool opportunity. What should people leaders be, like, thinking about right now? Like, just to maybe sort of start summarizing some of the stuff we've talked about. If you were to give some people leaders some advice based on what you're building, what you've seen, what you're hearing, like, what sort of things would you tell them right now?
I would be thinking about, slight summary, I guess, what I've talked about, but intentional strategy. What do you want to do in your organization with AI? And how are you therefore going to communicate that with the business and start setting the tone and the context? Talent. Have you got people in the organization that can help you drive that forward, whether that be transformation and change people, whether that be engineers, depending on what your context is? Like, do you have the people? Are you putting in the right framework for people to also learn and get on that journey? Because I think there's this assumption that people can just, like, do it side of desk and then, they'll get there. Well, we'll know, and we'll get there if we just ask people to do an extra 5% each day, whatever. It won't happen. You need dedicated focus on it. So I think those are probably my core things to think about.
Shirley, any thoughts or adds?
Couldn't agree more.
Awesome. I like, from my side, and this is a really big takeaway from the event I went to yesterday. Thomas Forstner from Duro was there. In case anyone knows him, he's awesome and worth a follow. But he asked the question to the room of like, how many people here have played around with building or trying to build like a custom GPT before? So a room full of like 50 people leaders, and only half raised their hands. Whether that was Chat GPT or similar was the question basically. But I thought it would be higher, honestly, maybe wrongly, but I do think that teams need to take it upon themselves to be leading from the front and understanding and playing and experimenting with building stuff. If we're going to be driving this change in companies as well, that's like my first sort of thing is like, regardless of your strategy in your company, like individually, people need to get really comfy with what this stuff looks like and how to use it and how to play with it, because we can't encourage this idea of experimentation and failure and like, creating stuff that doesn't work. Like, we need to be able to do all that stuff, but we can't do it if the people team themselves are not super comfy with it as well. So I think it's a big thing for me. If anyone hasn't sort of played with this stuff yet, just go and do it. It doesn't matter how silly the custom GPT is.
No one will know exactly what you did.
Oh,
no judgment.
Yeah, I spent a couple of hours the other night trying to build like a custom GPT that was going to help a people leader build a business case for anything, any initiative, any project they wanted to try and like pitch the exec team. Like, help me build this thing, help me build the business case. Like, I haven't finished it yet, but like, it doesn't have to be anything overly serious. Just get used to it and play with it. I think is really, really key. Otherwise, I think really
that way around. Like, if you start with something like that, like small niche, it helps to remove the barrier to start, and that's
definitely. And I think like on the back of that, again, a really nice touch yesterday was we saw an all hands slide from Duro's all hands where they share what's called like a lab report. So it's just like a spotlight on someone in the team who has been doing something with ChatGPT or building something. It might not have worked, to your point earlier, but we're sharing and celebrating people who are playing with the stuff. And I think that gets the wider business a lot more comfy with the idea of like where we are and what we're doing. So anyway, lots of takeaways, I'm sure. I'm going to like try and wrap up with a potentially like bold prediction type question, which I know is cheesy, but why not? Like, have either of you got any like ideas of what, like, fast forward, let's take our own advice. Let's not think 3 to 5 years ahead, because that's too far now, but like fast forward a year or so, what's different in the world of work? How do you picture things?
I can start. Like, for me, before I look forward, I always like to take a step back, because I think that to understand where we are going, it really helps to understand where it began. So I'm going to go really to the far history. And if you think about people like, Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo, these Renaissance artists, they didn't just, design or paint. They engineer, they sculpted, they build, and they own the whole thing, from vision to reality. And then something happened, the Industrial Revolution, Adam Smith, the pin factory. You have 10 different people, 10 different steps, how to create efficiency with, put people in very, very small niches. You do this part of the factory, do fragmentation, and the efficiency maximized, but something was lost, the ownership, the excitement, something more human. And I think AI, what it does is that it helps us to think about efficiency and think about scale without converting people into machines, and helping people again to be owners of the entire process, of the entire from vision to launch. And I think that's really, really exciting. So I believe the next era won't be defined, by the biggest org charts, the biggest, the best teams won't be the ones who are the biggest teams, but it will be the builders, those Renaissance builders, small teams, lean teams that really do end-to-end work. And for me, it's a very, very exciting future. I don't know if in a year, but hopefully, yes.
Awesome. Jess?
Yeah, I don't know if in a year. My thought on this is probably maybe it's longer than this. Who knows? Actually, to be honest, it's moving so fast. But I think we're going to quite quickly move to a world where companies are building their own AI capabilities, right? So I think we've had a period where lots of organizations buy lots of technology, and I think more and more people are learning how to experiment with AI now. Will get better at it. Will teach their people better, and we'll just start to be like, oh, actually, we don't need to buy that. Let's just build it. So I think it'd be really commonplace for organizations to just have their own engineering capability, but not a company that used to, is inherently a tech company in the past, but they will become that. And I think as a result, I think, when we look forward, the workforce of many organizations is going to look really different, and the skill sets that are needed will be very different. And so, almost everybody in almost every role will need to kind of enhance their skills in some way to adapt to that. And so there's the big question of how, and I think leaders need to be thinking about that and be thinking, right, well, if that does happen, what will my organization need to look like, and how do I prepare everybody now so we don't fall off a cliff when we realize it? So I think that is probably what I think in terms of big impact could well be coming our way.
I'm tempted to agree with you on that. We had a really awesome community. We call them our campfires in our Slack community. But we had one of the people leaders in our Slack community did like a little show and tell the other day. They basically made a decision to build their own like psychometric like personality profiling tool, saved them about £10,000 to £15,000 because they weren't using that provider anymore to do it, and they just gone and built their own. Like, it was scrappy and like bit gritty and like rugged around the edges, but like it worked and it did an amazing job, and they were able to tweak it and customize it and play with it as much as they wanted. And I think to a degree, for some of the slightly less complex tooling out there, like we will see a place where actually people start building their own. And we're already seeing some really cool stuff happening around how people are using that for feedback and performance and stuff like that. So I think that's exciting. I think smaller, leaner teams, definitely. I think the mix of skills and what we think about skills and how like much more like a generalist type future, I think, where it's way easier for anyone to actually start understanding how they could do someone else's job. I think is a really, really interesting place to be, for people leaders to be thinking about. And that also tips into like talent acquisition. Like, what should we be looking for? Because I had this conversation again yesterday with someone. I don't think looking at like experience is valid anymore, or even actually that appealing. Someone who's got 20 years experience in one thing has more to unlearn, more to unpick, versus someone who's coming through into work now with a lot more like breadth and chopping and changing weirdly, which is not what we're tuned into as from a hiring point of view. But anyway, thank you both so much. I'm gonna give you a brief break. We might get you back in a minute, folks. We've got a few minutes left. If anyone here has any questions, please feel free to, it doesn't have to be a question, by the way. If you've got an observation, anything to add to the conversation, please feel free to do that. You can type it into chat if you want, if you're not in the mood for grabbing the mic, or if you'd like to grab the mic. On the left-hand side of your screen, there's a little Q option with a little finger. So you can throw your name up there and yeah, ask a question if you want. I'll give everyone a second to awkward, like 30 seconds silence to Adrita. I'm going to come to you. This has happened once or twice where we've handed the mic and you haven't been able to come off mute. So I hope this works, but you should hopefully come off mute. If you don't, let me know in chat. Are you able to unmute yourself? Let me see if I can do it for you. One second. All right, try that. No.
Am I audible?
Yes. Yeah, we.
Perfect.
Yay.
Thank you for this session. It's so lovely, and I think I'm just inspired by how nicely and everybody articulates their ideas. It's something I really learn from. But okay, coming to my question, there was this point that you mentioned that previously it was the advantage of an early start, but now it's kind of the opposite. It's advantageous to kind of wait and see what's happening. As an HR professional, if I'm working with a leader who is really like impatient and wants to get things done as soon as possible and get onto that early start, how do I kind of uh, coach or guide them that it's not always the best idea?
Hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I actually meant something slightly different, so I'll clarify because maybe it wasn't so clear. I meant in terms of the business, like type of business. So a new startup that's just starting now has advantage in terms of org design and culture to incumbents, to tech companies that already existed, because they are built like that from scratch. So they have, smaller teams, less hierarchy, the AI forward tech stack in place, and kind of agility baked in everything they do. So it's not a specific individual inside a team. And I'm not saying at all um, to tell someone, no, don't go ahead, like stop them from trying out AI tools. But I was talking more about the type of companies out there.
Thank
Does
you,
it
thank you for that
make more
clarification.
sense now?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Adrita. If anyone else wants to risk seeing whether the microphone works or not, please to dive in. Matthias, I don't know if you're still here. I could be talking to no one, so apologies if you're not. But you are amazing. I was typing away to answer your question in chat. You asked a little bit about like little time in seed Series A startup. Do we think AI agencies can help like boost the process? So, like some teams really struggle with the starting point. I will pass over to Jess in a second because I think you obviously do a lot in the space. But my 2 cents in this really was like, yes, but also be careful about finding the balance between outsourcing it to the point where you're not getting hands-on and comfy enough with this stuff. Like if it's very easy to outsource stuff, but you're not learning necessarily or building that capability really in-house. So don't like necessarily tip to the point where you're just sort of treating this as like a external training into the business type thing. Because I found my experience has been there's always a pretty creative way of getting that done in-house, and there's always people in your business who are pretty comfy with this. So you, going back to that point that was made earlier about ambassadors, like find the people in your company who could maybe take some of that stuff on, particularly if you're in the place where startup budgets etc don't allow for it. But there's a place for bringing in someone externally who can really help you set a great baseline, and there's not enough of them out there at the moment actually. So I think it's a bit of a dependent answer. Jess, I don't know if you've seen any sort of use cases for this.
Yeah, I think kind of agree with you there, Adam. I think where we see value in getting support is sometimes just for that really upfront bit, that kind of like getting someone dedicated to diagnose like what is your maturity of AI at the moment, what do you want to get to, and how do you get there, and then you then got clarity. And you're really focused, everyone's behind it. And then, whether you've got people internally then that can actually build the stuff or that can change the project, whatever it might be, then fine. I think organizations can really get stuck talking about it and then never actioning it because you don't really know what direction you're going in. There's no time, no one's owning it. Sometimes it can be really powerful just to have somebody come in and do that for you. And then you've got something to work with, like a blueprint. Totally depends on where you are in your journey. Totally depends on kind of what your ambitions are, I suppose.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We've got 60 seconds left. We have one more question coming in. Are you seeing SMBs moving to SBO instead of traditional role-based org? Either of you
So skill-based.
either of you have a 30-second answer to that?
Not a 30-second answer, I don't think.
I'm not yet, is my answer. I'm starting to see people talking about this. I've not seen any really good examples of companies doing this just yet, but they're trying to work out how we can do it. And again, like, I think there's an internal mobility piece there as well around how we start getting people working across an org rather than just like promoted up a ladder. But I haven't seen it yet, but people are talking about it. So we're trying to help solve that.
Yeah.
We are at time, folks. So I'm going to call it there. Thank you so much, Shirley and Jess. That was really interesting examples and stories there. Thank you both. Thank you everyone for joining, listening, asking questions. Awesome to have you all here. Thank you very much. And yeah, come along next time. See you later.
Nice to see you all.
It was great to hear. Bye bye.